first order is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a quorum. All 5 of our members are here. Move on and adopt for adoption of the agenda. I would like to add 2 items that sort of are recent under, that can come up under new business. One of them is basically has to do with our rules and procedures and the application forms that are filed for the items that come before us. Another one would be a planning commission update by our representative.
I would also like to add that maybe we could, if we're looking at the rules of procedure, fix the enumeration. That we're missing a 4 and we have 2 5s.
Yeah, we can do that under the
6
first. Yeah, under the
6
first.
4 is non-existent under 2.
Yeah, it's just a cleric. It's a cleric.
Yeah.
Okay. So that we'll include that under the discussion on the rules.
Yeah.
I do a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
I so move.
And a second. Motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on to minutes. We do have the minutes for the our most recent meeting, which was May 25th. Does anybody have any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I cut an error. It said you're acting chairman, so that'll be fixed.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I prefer the acting chairman rather than chairman. Any other corrections or whatever? Have a motion to accept?
I so move.
Second. A motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are accepted. Let's move on to our first public hearing, which is Sun and Yang. It's SUP 2202-01 for a tourist home on tax map 27-56F. And I see that the applicants are here. And so we can first we'll ask the applicants if they'd like to make a statement in regards to the application.
Sure. Thank you. And how soon?
And feel free to remove your mask because it makes it easier for us to
Yeah,
get
because
what's
I
going
have
on, unless you really feel that you
Pretend we're in a restaurant.
I haven't gone down to the restaurant recently. Only eating home at home.
Take your mask off.
We got a planning commission hearing last month. That's June 15th. Scheduled here. So we are here for another hearing. We are very happy to be here. Thanks for your time. We'll be ready and happy to answer any question you have regarding the application.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing. Does anybody wish to speak in regards to the application? Smith.
Thank you.
Please identify yourself.
My name is Christine Smith. I live in the Piedmont District. I represent the Piedmont District on the Board of Supervisors. And I wanted to come today just to kind of talk about a few items involved in the history of this property, of which the board might not be aware. And I thank you for your time, and also to the new owners of the property for endeavoring to approach their project in the right way. And seeing so thoroughly through the processes that the county requires. I just wanted to mention a few things about this property that you all might not know. In the early summer of 2020, I started receiving complaints about this property and the many outbuildings that were on it. It had really become burdened with a lot of unsightly outbuildings, including yurts and porta potties and campers and, just strewn all over. And that went on, and I had complaints that the buildings were being built too close to the property line, which it turned out to be true. To give you an idea of how long it takes to set things right, through bureaucratic processes and not through any fault of the current owners, who seem like really delightful people. It took until late fall of 2021 for these concerns to be addressed. The Morys aren't here tonight. I certainly don't speak on their behalf, but I think they've made it clear in previous meetings some of the difficulties that have arisen through the way the buildings were built out on this property, through no fault of the current owners. There is also, and I'm sure you all saw it in your packet, a large building to the left of what's labeled the house. I don't really know that building. I've never been on the property because it is gated. I understand that was sort of designated agricultural in nature. It looks like a heck of an agricultural building, that's all I'm going to say. And it may be one of those things that, we try to have strict zoning to prevent things from happening, but that building has been the subject of a lot of questions. I would just ask you to pump the brakes and please look very carefully at this application, especially the intensity with which the property may be used with that second building on the property. I don't know if there's grounds for you to deny the application or if you are leaning that way. I'm sorry that our Piedmont District representative on the Planning Commission abstained from this vote. I would have been curious to know how she would have voted on it. The purpose of good zoning and planning is to create a harmonious community. And I just hope that whatever happens as an outcome of this application, there will be a little more harmony for the neighbors. If you're not able to deny the application, which you may choose not to, I would ask that you add a couple of additional layers to the requirements for approval. In addition to capping the overnight guests at 6 overnight guests, I would ask that you cap the number of folks that can be on the property in the course of the daytime, as we have done with many businesses throughout the years, including Williams and his special exception, so that even though 6 folks may be staying the night, there aren't a lot of day visitors to the property. I would ask that you specifically enumerate that there be no events of any kind allowed on the property. No services, no parties, no weddings, no events, profit or non-profit on the property, because I think this is a property that could be ripe for that sort of thing. And I would also ask that you consider doing one other thing, which in my opinion maybe isn't done often enough, and think about imposing a term on the approval and setting an expiration date of January 2024. I do think that the new owners have good intentions. Having guidelines that everyone understands and a deadline for that to expire and there to be a renewal of the application and revisit how things have gone and see if anything else is necessary for the future would probably be advantageous for all the parties who are involved. And I don't think it is overly onerous or prohibitive for the current owners, who I know are trying to do the right thing. So again, I understand not every property is for every use, and this may be an occasion where you want to look a little deeper and possibly deny the application. But if you should choose to approve it, please consider putting additional requirements on it, such as capping day users, prohibiting events of any kind, and putting an expiration date on it of January 2024, at which time there will have to be a new application for renewal. Thank you for your time and consideration. I appreciate your service very much.
May I ask a question?
Does anybody else wish to comment on the application? Seeing no further comments, we will close the public comment portion of the hearing, and the members of the board now can ask questions of the applicant. Quite further, do not have to.
Can we have that question if you have just spoken, that comes later?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm just wondering, I don't know what the arrangement is here, but let's say they had children and they decided to get married. Are you saying they couldn't have that kind of an event on their own property? I don't think it's within our purview to restrict so radically the way one uses one's own property. I mean, for private things. Public, it's one thing, but I mean,
I would certainly defer to the board to be able to craft the appropriate language for prohibiting events from people that are rented the property.
That's not a
oh, well,
trustee.
that's different. And that seems reasonable, but, you know, private events that, of any kind, that seems a little bit onerous, maybe?
Well, to folks who have rented the property, you know. a
Well, I mean,
private
but the
or-
people themselves.
I prefer
But people,
Bill,
it's
I
one.
prefer that we not have you back and forth.
Okay, yeah, I prefer not.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tiegelman, there is a precedent for saying no special events for special use permits. I've seen it before.
I understand that, but I'm just asking if they had children and wanted to get married, they couldn't do it on their own property. This is what, is that a yes or a no?
Well, let's
Okay.
not get.
I have a question.
No.
You all do not live on the property, is that correct?
Not yet, it's only for vacation.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We come here in the weekend. We are living in Maryland, we come here for weekend vacation. You want me to say something or wait?
I can't hear. Can you take your mask off when you're speaking? Thank you. Much appreciated.
If you allow me, can I say something? Okay. I want to, let's just try to say 3 points. The last point, I try to answer the lady's question. The first two, just some clarification. The first one I want to highlight, we bought this property for our enjoyment in a weekend. We are living in Maryland, Rockville. We come here in the weekend to visit my family. But we do not come every day, you know. Sometimes we may not come because we have to work in Maryland and DC. So for the remaining time, maybe we can consider to share with other people to cover some of the costs. You know, we have some utility, we have grass cutting, lawn mowing, we need to cover some costs. So that's why we want to apply for this kind of short-term rental, because that's the background. The second one is last month, we have a lot of discussion, also with the lady, the neighbor on my side, you remember. We have a lot of good discussion. And your colleague in planning committee give us a very good suggestion. So basically we accept our suggestion to follow the rule of protect the environment, the light, the darkness, using control the flooding light, and to manage the possible noise to the community. So we did discuss that. They list something a kind of precondition when we want to do a short-term rental, so we can put it into our short-term rental introduction, and also can put it into the application approval. So that's the last time. So we just follow it whatever you want, you can follow it. So that's the second point. Third point, I really mentioned just now. I think quite overlapping with last time. But we can we can follow whatever you want to put into the introduction of short-term rental, and we can manage people, 6 people overnight. Even in daytime, only my family come. We don't have many people. We don't want to invite party for party. But last time we have mentioned that already. So it's quite clear. We are pretty flexible. The only new thing the lady mentioned is renewal in January 2024. That's new, different from last time. So all other things should be the same. So that's my quick response. First, we get here to enjoy the beauty and share the beauty and to cover the cost. And we follow whatever you want. We want to follow the requirements, not only in approval, but also in the future short-term rental. And for any potential collaboration with neighbor, we are very happy to contribute. So that's my quick response.
Just as background on what happened on the planning commission was that the neighbor, Ms. Maury, was there, and they all spoke to each other about what her concerns were, and the son and Yangs agreed to all the provisions. So that's what's basically here, her requests as a neighbor were included in the provisions by the planning commission. But it seemed happy, everybody seemed happy with the end result. That being that there'd be, only one house would be used. All the other things were permitted, but they're odd buildings, and they weren't permitted for residential use. That big building, if you've been over there, there's a odd building to the left that was apparently going to be a place where horseback riders were going to come after riding or something, but I'm not sure that ever happened, but that was the previous owner. So there was an agreement not to use that building or any of the accessory buildings on the property, so that there would be, 6 people, which is what the,
Can you put that back up again, those conditions?
Trying to find the area for
and then there'd be, downshielded lighting. They're going to put trees between the property and amplified music and no discharge of firearms, no fires, no food service.
There's one that seems to be contradicting itself. It says establishment of vegetative-free buffer, and then we're saying we want a buffer of trees.
Well, it can
This
be
doesn't-
bushes and trees.
Well, there are some really nice trees growing there, and if they just weren't removed, it would provide eventually a very nice buffer, some real nice pine trees.
Okay, I'll interject on that right now, so we can kind of put that to rest.
Okay.
There are 27 cedar trees
Right.
that have been planted along that line already, which constitutes a buffer.
Right.
They're presently there. They do need to be, it would be helpful if the weeds got cleared around them because it would be healthier for the trees, but that already exists.
Okay,
So
but I just
it
didn't
does not-
understand.
So it doesn't have to be a condition because it's already there.
Right, and establishing a vegetative-free buffer, I worried that meant chopping those down or something.
No, not
Where's the
free,
base?
it's tree.
Vegetative-free buffer.
Tree, no, that's a T, not an F.
A vegetative tree, oh, I see, oh.
That would be live trees,
Pardon
I
me.
guess, I don't know, but anyways, okay. So I was gonna say, that is one thing that does not need to be a condition because it already exists.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So in the end, we can take that out.
Well, maybe you
Okay,
could say maintenance
Maintain it.
vegetating tree.
And change the word for established to maintain, and that's.
Yes, maintain the existing would be the proper word, I guess.
Good.
Okay.
I have another question. In the case that there is some issue with your guests and you will not be there, will you be available for the Morris to contact you?
Yeah, we have an agent working for us,
Management.
management company.
Oh, you have a management?
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Local
Local.
management.
And
Yeah.
I will interject on that because I would have a concern, which is something maybe you haven't considered, is that to my knowledge, the management company is in Culpeper.
Yes.
Okay. There are management companies within Rappahannock County because because I deal with short-term rentals, I do maintenance for people or whatever, and so I'm part of their process. But the people have to be readily available, which is, so if there's a problem with the property, whatever, somebody can be there in 5 to 10 minutes.
I see.
And so, and I would actually make this a recommendation that the management company be, within 10 minutes of the property.
I see.
And that way, if the people have a problem, I mean, if they're not waiting an hour or whatever before, the next morning, that's part of the business or whatever, to have people readily available. And most of the places I work with, the people at management that manage the properties are, a lot of them are within 5 minutes away. They're local residents or whatever that have agreed to do this for the people. So that would be actually a condition I would put on the thing that if the owners are not present on the property, that the management be within the local jurisdiction.
No, that's great. We have the same idea to get a very local management company, but we can't find it in this area. Do you have a recommendation?
That's not for me to do right now, but I can perhaps help you with that. And there are real estate people around and whatever
That's great.
that could help you out.
So we can get in touch with you for the information. Okay, great.
That's a business in this kind of a
Yeah,
community.
that's great.
Julie, any comments, questions?
How do you intend to use the accessory dwelling, or not dwelling, but building?
Yes, that's the number 3, the point number 3. We will use it only for entertainment, some physical exercise. There is a large lobby in the accessory building. We just want people to walk in to do some exercise. Because in my main building, no place for exercise. Some people may like it. So no residential, no residential.
So just a gym, you're gonna make it a gym?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I've been out there twice. I was actually out there today, and number one, you bought the property that has a lot of problems in its history.
I don't know.
But I don't think we can hold you responsible for the problems that come with the property. And in all honesty, I mean, there were many people in the county that were aware of the problems that were going on out there during the construction. And there was a breakdown on the county's part. The county was also made aware of that, and nothing was done. And so to hold you responsible for those things is not something that I don't think we can do. And although, I don't know what you're going to do with all that stuff out there, because I mean, there's here and there. My understanding was that the people that were doing the construction were living on the property when it was being constructed. That was part of their being paid or whatever. And then they left, and all the old structures stayed there. On the accessory building, I look at that because square footage wise, it's close to the same size as the house. And I see that as an invitation for a lot of problems, even though you're trying to do the right thing. In that we're looking at a permit for 6 people. The house itself and the porches and the decks and everything are more than sufficient space for 6 people to have an enjoyable weekend. And I feel that if we allow the permit to extend over to that auxiliary building, that you would have people that would come in being aware of that, and the situations would occur that Ms. Smith was referring to, is that suddenly a whole bunch of people show up for a get-together, and it can get out of hand or whatever, and that's, I don't think that's what you want, and I know that's not what the county wants and not what the neighbors want. So my feeling on the application is that the application will be for the house only. And what you do with the auxiliary building is entirely up to you, and for your personal use, that's your personal property. You can do whatever you want with it. But as far as a permit for, short-term rentals or whatever, the permit would be strictly for the house. Would you be agreeable with that?
So you mean get rid of number 3, right?
What?
You have a list just now. You have number 3.
The
Condition.
condition,
Can you go back to the page?
You're correct.
Sidewalks to recreation.
Get rid of.
Yeah. I would say that,
it's expressly prohibited.
it's not part of the rental. It's not part of the rental, and it would be, it's going to be blocked when the rental people are done.
Yeah, for like they want to use that as a gym, but if they want to put a shuffleboard down there, I think.
It doesn't, I've looked in there, and it's, like I said, for 6 people, there is, on a rental, plus it's going to be less maintenance for you all, is that it's, if people are going to rent the place, that building is not going to be a factor unless they have the idea of, let's have a big party, and so that eliminates that possibility.
I would agree with that.
What are the facilities in that building?
Right?
What kind of facilities, utilities are in that building?
There's a kitchen, there's a bathroom, a large meeting, party, event, it's an event center.
Yeah.
It was designed to be an event center, I believe. How they got, that's up to, how we let all that happen, I don't know, but that's what's there. But yes, it's obvious when you look at it, it's an event center. So that would not be part of the permit.
Excuse me? But we can just put a rule on the short-term rental platform saying that no party allowed.
That's all well and good to say, but in reality, and if you look at the history of these short-term rentals on Airbnb or whatever, they have a problem with that, in that somebody rents a space and suddenly at 8 o'clock on Saturday night or whatever, 200 people show up, and there's a large party that gets out of hand or whatever, and that's what we want to ensure doesn't happen here. And like I said, I don't think it wouldn't affect your ability to rent the property. But you can use it, and quite honestly, in regards to your personal use of the property, it is your property. If you want to have a bunch of people over, it's just like people, they have barns or whatever on their property, and they want to have, a get together with a number of people or whatever, that's your right as a private property owner. Mm-hmm. So no, we can't take that away from you. But we don't want the option to be available for people that do not own the property.
Sure. Okay. Let's do that.
And we talked about the management of 3 other things. I would ask about looking at the outside of the building or whatever. I see no indication that there's any kind of phone service that comes to the house.
No online. No
landline.
Only cell phone.
Only cell phone, but do you have any kind of boosters or anything? Because my cell phone, I was there today, I got zipped. That my cell phone would not work there.
Yeah, we have the internet.
What?
Cell phone plus internet. So we can use our cell phone.
You can use your cell phone, but the point I'm making is that like I said, I'm on AT&T.
T-Mobile.
But my cell phone does not work there. And what you have to understand out here is that when people come from, urban areas or whatever, they're used to their cell phone working. If they come out here, rent your place or whatever for the weekend, they have an emergency, they look at their cell phone and nothing's happening. And I mean, you may have a life and death situation going on and you can't dial 911. We don't want that to happen here. So, and we in the past have required the short-term rentals to have some reliable form of telephone service. So in your case, because where it's located, it's currently in a dead zone. So to have a landline run to the house, so there is a working telephone there, so if people have an emergency, they can pick up the phone and dial 911 and somebody will show up.
You can't, excuse me, you can't guarantee that your tenants will have the proper cell service to have emergency services available. And it's critical if your house catches on fire, that your tenants be able to call the fire department. I think that's in your best interest.
Yeah, but my question, can we install a landline over there? Can we do that? Do we have a service? It's very far away.
It would be, I don't know if it's, I don't know what the is out there, whether it's Verizon or whatever, but they're obligated. I mean, if you request it, under the, it may not be the most reliable service, but it's there, and to a certain extent, from a liability standpoint on your end, is that to not have that available to people could put you in a precarious situation at some point in time if you didn't provide the renters with the ability to contact emergency services. So
Okay, so we can check. If we can check if we can add.
yeah, or I mean, if you can put in some sort of a cell booster or whatever that would work off of Wi-Fi that they could connect into, and basically you would leave instructions somewhere on rentals on how to tap into the Wi-Fi phone service. That also would be acceptable.
Right now, there's satellite internet. Does it work?
Satellite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Internet.
We have
that.
Okay, and you may be, you may be able to tap into that on Wi-Fi and then,
Yes,
and then have a phone.
it is working. Everything is working.
Right.
It's called Hughes. Hughes is a company.
Yeah.
We have that already.
Okay.
So we want that. Another thing on it that I noticed today was that the address is hard to, it's on the mailbox, but it's really not very visible. And what we have, you may have seen them around the county or whatever, are they're blue or green. They're reflective, so at night, emergency services going down the road, the headlights, see the address thing. So post one of those. Post one of those in your case, you could post it on your side of the road, because your phone or your mailbox right now is on the opposite side of the road, and which you may not even use. But anyhow, just to mark it clearly for emergency services so that they can find that location.
Plus, it's also a problem around here. New people coming into a property, they may not know exactly which property it is, and they end up going the wrong driveway and bother the neighbors, and the neighbors get all grumpy. And so it's better if you're well defined.
Yeah, we have planned to do that. We have put some landmark along the driveway. So
It's hard to miss the horses.
Can we go through the planning commission recommendations line by line?
Yeah.
And then also review these new conditions before we visit the findings?
Right.
So the planning commission recommendations include a maximum of 6 people in the main dwelling. Is that amenable to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. We are striking.
Actually, I would just change it to dwelling, because we're not, there's only going to be, the permit, unless the rest of the board doesn't want to go with it, is going to be issued for the house only.
I think it makes sense because number 3, right now says the use of the accessory recreational building beside the house is limited to recreational use, we can just modify that to say is expressly prohibited.
Right,
So, I think the main dwelling is appropriate.
okay.
Yeah, because there is that trailer.
Oh, there's numerous, I mean, you go back into the weeds there's numerous
Well,
structures out there that are habitable to, for certain people.
I like being explicit with the main
Yeah.
dwelling.
Right,
Is everybody okay with that?
yes, and actually, I think to put in wording that the permit is for the main dwelling only.
Yes, that's what number 2 is. Number 4 is outside lighting shall be down-shielded. I think we're all fine with that. 5 is no unrestrained pets permitted outside.
I don't agree with that. And actually looking at the property, for the most part, it's wire fenced on all 4 sides.
I've never
And
seen
if people
such a
bring their
condition.
dogs, and I mean, it's the country, you want to play fetch with the dog or whatever, I think that's
I think the
being too restrictive.
concern there was that maybe in the past, dogs that have been at that property had chased the Maury's livestock.
Looking at the fence, I don't see how that would be fine. Go to the house.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, that fence, it's a standard wire fence. Dogs are not able to access the Maury's property.
I beg your pardon. I know dogs that could get over that wire fence.
Well, the Maury's might have dogs that could go the other way. I think that's being too restrictive on, if that should apply to the people that are visiting, then it would also have to, it should apply to the owners.
How about
So,
we change the wording and instead of saying unrestrained, we change the word to unattended?
I'll agree with that. Unattended, yes.
That way, if you're just standing at the window paying attention, you're good, but you gotta keep your eye on.
Right, yeah, no, absolutely,
Keep-
yes.
keep-
I'll go along with that 100%.
Okay, no unattended pets permitted outside. Number 6, establishment, we're changing to maintenance of vegetative tree buffer with the neighboring property
Make it existing.
of existing.
Yeah, maintenance of existing vegetative tree.
Okay, moving on to 7, no amplified music outside and no outdoor music or excessive noise after 10 p.m. I'm fine with that.
There again, when you get into amplified music, if you're sitting on the deck with your Siri speaker or whatever, just listening to some music and enjoying, what you're looking at or whatever, we're saying that would not be possible. And
Listen to the radio, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
But I think what
And other than that, I mean, if you only have 6 people, you're not gonna have a rock and roll band on the deck.
Well,
Unless it happens to be a rock and roll band that rents the place, and the odds of that are gonna be slim or none. But, there are certain things that on these short-term rentals that are, I think overly restrictive, and you have to consider whether, the property owner could do this, but the people that are renting the place can't, and how we get into managing that particularly, and that, how do you know, the Maury's may not know who's over there. It may be the owners that are there that weekend, and they can't go out on their own deck and listen to the radio.
Yeah, I can't listen to NPR.
To me, amplified implies
means
an amplifier.
Yeah,
So,
we can clarify that now.
Well, but that's,
Words right now.
but an amplifier, but that's what,
Well, I mean, we could
an
say
amplifier can be this big.
no more than a
about no
2-watt
loud
amplifier or
music?
something like that.
Yeah, I'll go with no loud music, that's.
No loud music is
Right.
good. I mean,
amplified seems more
it's also
specific to me,
subjective, but
but-
Well, what if they were out there singing?
Depends on
Raucously.
how well they carry a tune.
I'm just trying to be realistic on the conditions that we put on these. And the fact that we we don't tend to, I can't think of any others recently, permits that we've issued where we've had that restriction.
We did at the Chester Gap Baptist Church. It was an explicit condition.
No amplified.
Yes.
Yes, but that was,
After 10
I agree with that, and that was a little different though, that was not a family type rental situation or whatever, that was gonna be used as an event center, and therefore we were referring to music in regards to an event center.
At the end of the day, it's very hard for the county, or especially us, to enforce a lot of these
That's
things,
it,
to be
that's
honest with you. But I think they're good guidelines for you to communicate in the guidelines
Yeah,
and your
that's
rules
right.
to your guests.
It's something you can tell your tenants.
You're not gonna have the sheriff's department knocking on your
Yeah.
door if they have music, but hopefully this is what you'll communicate to your guests as far as expectations.
How about excessive noise?
Yes. Please, or in your thing, please respect the rights of the neighbors and limit your, use of the deck to before 10 o'clock or for.
I suggest we leave the planning commission recommendation as is.
Yeah, well, the only thing bothers me about it is it looks like when it says no amplified music outside, and no outdoor music or excessive noise after 10 p.m. It looks like no amplified music outside ever. And I don't think we should say that, because,
Yeah, it depends on how you read it.
Right.
And then,
So
yes, actually the way it reads right now, it's all after 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
It can
or
read the sentence.
excessive
Right,
noise.
okay.
How about this? No amplified music outside or excessive noise after 10 p.m.
That sounds good.
I'll go with that.
All right, that's good.
And they're not allowed to.
That way it just doesn't sound like
They're playing.
you can't play music ever. No.
I'm good with that, Sharon. Are you good? Okay. 8, house rules shall reflect the special use permit conditions. I think we can all agree to that. 9, no outdoor fires.
Okay, there's another one that I would question in that one of the things, particularly with your situation with 6 people, you're probably looking for families to come out and to bring the kids out to the country or whatever, and you want to sit outside and make s'mores and roast marshmallows over the fire or whatever. I don't see a problem with that. There seems to be with some folks or whatever that people that come from the city or whatever have no idea how to build a fire.
Right, or how to
And
contain it.
that's not true, because there are, most of the fire problems we have around here are created by locals, not people that are visiting. I mean, it's just, fires can get out of control, but I would recommend is in regards to the no outdoor fires is that outdoor fires will be, fire pits. So you buy one of the contained type fire pit things that so that they've got a place to put logs in or whatever and build a fire, but it's contained to a.
Plus you need fire extinguishers available for the house anyway. And they should be able to be accessible to people outside, and it would be nice if you had a hose functioning for us. I'm sure you have.
How about instead of no outdoor fires are contained and controlled?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving forward, 10, no discharge of firearms.
I'm quite in favor of that.
I'm fine with that. 11, no food service will be offered to renters of the facility. I think that's standard. 12, this permit terminates upon sale or transfer of the property. That's standard. Now to the additional ones that I've heard tonight.
And reliable phone service.
Maintain, because they already have some type of broadband, it sounds like. And Ron, you mentioned the requirement for a local management company. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I'm interested.
I don't
in the
think
other.
that's our purview.
Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate either.
Let's just say that would be prudent. We can't ask for that, but it would be prudent.
Yeah, we recommend it, to find.
Very highly.
I don't think it's a condition.
If somebody can get there, the difference between somebody getting there in an hour and somebody getting there in emergency, it's your
Well,
property
the-
would be in your
The
interest.
concept company might have somebody that's closer.
And you may want to terminate somebody's rental agreement quite rapidly at some point. It would be good to have a representative there to do that.
I did agree with, Ms. Smith's recommendation of no events, as far as your special use permit goes. Are you amenable to that?
Yeah, no,
Well, that-
for the renters though. I mean, if
That would
they-
take a special events
if they have
permit
permit
anyways.
you know.
Just, a lot of people wanna come out here to do weddings. And so
Oh.
if it's expressly put on.
But I mean, if
the
it's your own family, it's one thing, but having,
No, we're
hiring out
talking about
weddings.
people who rent it for, as a tourist home, no events.
Right, for the renters, yes.
Okay.
We can't,
Yeah.
we can't ask them to not have birthdays.
I will agree with that, and I think that should become another one of the standards that we put on all the applications. So,
I agree. Ms. Smith also recommended two more that I'd like to discuss with the board on their thoughts. I'm not sure, based on all of these conditions we've already discussed, that a term on the approval is appropriate. Any other thoughts?
I think this,
I'm good
I
with
think
that.
it's a very small property, it's very close to your neighbors. It does have all these other buildings. I personally would feel more comfortable if we did put a term limit on, where you could come back and review it. And if there have been no problems, bada boom.
I don't think you can do it.
2024, right?
We can't do a review, we can do a term on the
Yeah.
permit.
But then they have to start the whole process.
Yes, I'll have to
again.
pay the application fee
I
again.
just
there again, I mean,
two parties.
if
If
we're
I'm
gonna put,
asked to be recognized, I don't mean to
no,
interrupt.
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Chairman.
we're discussing here, right?
Okay.
You understand that?
I
You're up
do,
here.
but if I may speak
Okay.
at some point though,
Uh,
much appreciated.
Anyways, it's, that restriction is another one where, I don't see, particularly if they do not have use of the accessory building, so that's out of the picture. Then it's no different than any of the other short-term rental requests that we get, and unless that also is going to become a part of all of the permits that we issue, that we,
I agree,
uh,
based on the narrow scope that we've defined, it's.
yeah, like I said, I don't see, I think that's an undue,
Also,
because
if
there's
there's a
vested,
problem,
there's gonna, a certain amount of vesting in putting this operation together. And to then have to come back in 2 years with the idea that it may be taken away. Like I said, unless we start doing that with everybody, I can't see.
I also think
I
if
agree
there's
with
a
that.
problem, we'll probably hear about it.
We can always take back the permit. That's
Yeah.
our purview. So if there are complaints or problems or whatever, it comes before us and we can revoke the permit.
Is the general census of the board in
I'm
terms?
in agreement with the majority here.
Okay, and lastly, the cap of the number of people on the property. Thoughts on that?
It's,
It was for the dwelling.
No, Ms.
Just
Smith
going
recommended a
down, I
cap
think
in the
that
you
number
guys
of
should-
people on
already
the
at
property.
6 people.
it's not enforceable. It's not enforceable. I mean, you can put it in there, but who do you call?
Well, we've
Who's the
stated
bean counter that
we've
counts
stated
the
no
house?
special events.
Yeah.
We've stated
Almost
only
did
use the
pretty much
primary
cover
dwelling,
it.
we've stated only 6 people in the dwelling.
Yeah, it's a permit for 6 people, that's it,
Okay. Do we need to recap these conditions, or are we all on the same page? Okay, right, I'm gonna run through them real quick one more time. It seems we have all coalesced around a max of 6 people in the main dwelling. Use of the accessory recreational building beside the house is expressly prohibited. Actually, we're gonna say use of all accessory buildings are expressly
Yes, put
prohibited.
it that way, with the
Um,
house trailer.
Outside lighting shall be downshielded. No unrestrained pets on property has now been
Unattended.
No unattended pets. Maintenance of existing buffer with neighboring property. No amplified music outside and no outdoor music or excessive noise after 10 p.m. was modified to no amplified music outside or excessive noise after 10 p.m. House rules shall reflect special use permit conditions. Outdoor fires are contained and controlled. No discharge of firearms. No food service will be offered to renters of the facility. The permit terminates upon sale or transfer of the property. Maintain phone service and or internet. No special events. I think that's all of it. Can we make the finding with these conditions? In section 170.52 general standards, 170.53 condition and restrictions.
Okay, I think we've covered basically all of those areas in the discussion that we've had.
Well,
So I think
yeah,
we
in
don't
general,
really need to go through them unless the board wants to.
There's something we missed.
maybe we could just say generally that the proposed use shall not adversely affect the use or development of neighboring properties and shall be in accordance with applicable zoning district regulations of location, size, height of building structures, walls and fences, nature and extent of screening, buffering, landscape shall be such that the use will not hinder or discourage appropriate development and or use of adjacent or nearby land, and then the following,
Yeah,
the general standards, have been met.
I was gonna say that there's no traffic problems to speak of, no parking problems, signage is regulated, they can put up a sign, but it would have to be very small. Future impact, not really. Air quality, unsafe conditions, no. So I think that as far as findings go, I think we covered all of it.
I move we pass it with, as amended.
With the conditions.
With the condition.
Well, actually, I mean, yes.
Just read the condition.
Right.
I think we should approve.
Do I hear a second?
I say.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Good job, thank you.
Welcome
Good work.
welcome to Rappahannock.
Can I ask you two questions?
Yes.
What's the next step? When do we expect the approval? For 1 month or 2 months? How long will we wait?
Basically, if you meet all the conditions, which basically I think the only one that you would have to meet would be, well, there's the address indicator and the phone service or whatever, but basically from there you go to the
You're good to go.
zoning administrator and she will issue you the permit.
So somebody will inform us, right? We should get a certificate, right? Am I right? Or
Zoning
Yeah, the zoning administrator.
Yeah.
You've probably been in the office over here across the street. Or maybe-
somebody will get in touch with us?
Yes. Or-
Michelle Summers.
Just follow
Oh,
up.
Michelle, okay.
Right, just talk to Michelle, so make sure all the Ts are crossed.
Thank you. My last question. If we want to change it to a local management company, whom I can get in touch with you? Information.
I don't
Actually,
think
you
it's
might
appropriate for us to
you might
recommend businesses. but-
contact one of the local real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we contacted already, but nobody fit for us. First, it's very limited. Second, if we get in touch with them, they say they do not want to provide services. The one we are hiring the car piper one, is one of the biggest one in area. So that's why we get that. I don't think that we can find
Well,
local law, so that is
let's
possible.
put this way, you know, because we did not make that a condition, so. You know,
It's just in your own
so
best
do the
interest,
best you can.
suggesting that you might want to.
Yeah, it would also work well in your favor because it would make management of it much easier.
We will appreciate if you can give us some information about that.
Yeah, we can't,
We can find it.
we can't recommend one business over another business, that's not our business.
Okay,
We can't
we'll
do
try,
that.
we'll try,
Okay, that's fine.
get it.
That's it?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
Okay, moving on to our second subject.
Yes.
Our second hearing was for, is it the survey?
Exactly.
Okay, the survey. It's SUP 22-6-1, tax map 37-44 for a tourist home. And let's see. All of the necessary information was filed. So, you're the applicant?
Yes.
You very astute on my part. Would you like to make a statement?
So when this place was purchased, it's adjacent to Off the Grid, which I own and operate. And we feel it'll be a nice short-term rental for guests.
I have a
It's taken
question.
a while to get to this process, but it's been fully renovated.
I have a question, just out of curiosity, that bears on nothing. The building next door that's not yours, it's a separate piece of property, there's something that seems a little dilapidated.
Yeah, that's the original building that's sort of not viable.
Yeah.
But,
But that's on your property? though?
Yeah.
Oh, I see, okay, I just.
And that's in
wondered if that's
between, and
illegal
then-
or was completed.
right.
That's good.
Okay, let's move on to, actually, declare the public hearing open. And is there anyone here that wishes to comment on the application? Seeing no one, we will close the public comment portion of the hearing and move on to the board. If they have questions, they have. We'll start with Bill.
Pretty much the same things that apply, we always want to make sure they're there, like fire extinguishers, emergencies, communications, and,
That's all in the code already.
yeah.
Actually,
As long as those things are all in order.
Fire extinguishers are not
I
in the
don't see a
code.
problem.
This actually has Comcast, so it has full Wi-Fi, and so,
Do you plan on using it yourself?
I've had my family stay there. I mean, I live next door, but I've had my visiting family stay there. And when both my sons are home, it's bigger than mine, so we go there.
And the health department's approved it for, 3 bedrooms, so there'd be a maximum of 6 people.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to advertise it as 5, because the betting is there's one, one single, one two.
And you're not planning to offer food service?
They can come in to the
Well,
restaurant.
you do it, but they're gonna have to go to the restaurant.
Right.
Yeah, to go next door.
Yeah, I've looked at it.
I have no problem. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Julie, you?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Stefan was curious, why did they get forwarded with no recommendation?
Oh, there was a recommendation, it's just not, you see that you look at the vote, everybody agreed to forward it to the BZA
That was the,
without conditions.
I don't think there were conditions.
No,
Yes.
Maybe
Al Henry abstained, Mary Catherine she abstained.
They were absent.
Oh, they were absent, okay. It was all unanimous then. And then no additional conditions from the planning commission.
In fact, if she lives next door, it's like, that's not like.
It's ideal.
Yes, that's what-
Manageable.
We hope for it. I would say the same thing on the address, is that, the address out on the road is not,
Oh,
very visual and.
I need to do something about that.
it's-
I
it's,
really
you
do.
know,
Maybe it's just.
I also get people coming up that, because it's a leading highway address, but it has its own little Parkway Lane, so people think it's actually,
Yeah, it's on the road.
so I need to also have a private drive.
Yes.
Right, it's also good for other people around there, you don't have people wandering into their houses, that's some of the stuff that is,
Yeah.
well, out of that.
Well, I move that we approve the application.
Well, what I would say, because of the certain conditions that we just applied to the previous application, that those that are
Similar.
going to be sort of germane to all applications now be put in place.
Makes sense.
So that being no amplified music outside or excessive noise after 10 p.m.
Right,
House rules should reflect special use permit conditions.
right,
Outdoor fires are maintained and controlled.
right,
No discharge of firearms.
right,
No food service will be offered.
right,
Correct.
This permit terminates upon sale or transfer.
right,
No special events.
right,
Maintain phone service, landline, or broadband.
right.
Did you miss the unattended pet?
Oh, yes.
Oh, thank you, I have that up here, yes. No unattended pets, outside lighting shall be down-shielded. And, did the zoning administrator put a cap on the amount of people?
6.
6.
Yes.
So maximum of 6
overnight.
people.
Okay, so we can entertain a motion on
So
the
we've already,
application and conditions.
we've already made a motion, is that right?
I don't know, have we?
Well, if we haven't, I will.
Yeah, so, thank you. And I'll take a second.
I'll second,
Okay.
I have at least made some reference to the findings.
Oh, yes, the findings, thank you. Thank you. They tend to get away also on the second application, we were on the first, but does anyone have any concerns on any of the findings?
No, read through them all, they all are good.
Hearing none, the reference to findings is established. All in favor of the application with the attached?
Steph made the motion, who second?
Second.
I think that I think I seconded it.
Yes.
Oh, Bill made the motion, sorry.
I'm sorry. So all in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion's passed.
Enjoy your new tourism.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see.
Okay, moving on to old business, which we have done. But under new business, we added the two items that we're going to talk about. Which, oh, there we are. Okay. Let's do planning commission quickly.
Okay.
Oh, right.
That's, what's going on in the planning commission is basically a discussion of the sign ordinance, which has been postponed. And there'll be another work session, I think August 9th, to go over that. And the recommendation so far, the planning commission is that there not be a public art ordinance.
The public what?
Art ordinance. Because it's.
But the signs refer mostly to businesses or private things, but not to art.
Well, the sign ordinance, I mean, yes, the sign ordinance to remain and be reconstructed.
Yeah.
But the public art is not going to be part of that.
Or separate.
Or
They were talking
at
about,
this point, it may not be, because it's not.
they were talking about.
The recommendations.
I was talking to Sharon here. We were all at the meeting then, but they were talking about asking people who put any kind of artistic expression visible from the road to acquire a permit to do that. And there was quite a bit of public opposition. And plus, it doesn't sound like it would be constitutionally viable to limit free expression in that way. And I, for one, think we're just asking for lawsuits and discord, and I don't think it's a really good idea. Of course, the sign ordinance is important and a good idea, but you have to watch where the Constitution leaves you. You can't go there. I don't think. I mean, we could take it to court, some lawyers and judges could sort it out, but I don't think we should let that happen.
I was going to say, we haven't been able to enforce the sign ordinance
Right.
that was instituted. How would we ever enforce a public art ordinance?
Yeah, right. We can't forget that exactly. Exactly. An exercise in futility.
Okay, so that's for some good news, for some perhaps not good news. But anyhow, on our rules and procedures, which were mentioned in the recent email from the county administrator, we're operating under the rules and procedures that we have in place right now. We are aware of the fact that there needs to be improvement, but I think we've agreed on the fact that we're going to wait until they redo the county ordinances, so then we can take a look at the current county ordinances and then apply our rules and procedures to that, and to try to start doing it piecemeal. And I understand your concern, Steph, on that typo error, but that's not, to do that, we have to, basically we have to go, the process you have to go through to make changes is sort of, cumbersome.
We want to.
And so if we're going to make changes, let's make changes all at the same time, and go through the process, and then redo it. I mean, the one that we have agreed upon and we have been suspending is the need for an attorney. And we have every right to do that under the existing rules and procedures. So we're good to go there. So for right now, we're good in that area. But the other thing that I realized in going through the information for this meeting or whatever is that I'm seeing changes in the applications. They're not the same applicant, but the application for permits have changed recently. And that's all well and good, and we need to, we're required to conform to our rules and procedures. And if you look at your rules and procedures, if you happen to have them with you or whatever, under Article 6, applications to the BZA under the general rules, it states in 6-1, general rules, applications for special use permits, variances, and appeals shall be made on forms approved by the board, together with all information required by the zoning ordinances. Since I've been on this board, I have never seen anybody come in and say, we're going to you know, we'd like to change the form, the application form. And so these changes have taken place,
And nobody's asked us.
but according to our rules, and these rules were approved by the Board of Supervisors when they were instituted, that's our purview to make the approval on. I'm not against them.
No, but I mean, just as a formality, we ought to just bring them, say we're good with this and let it
According to
go.
this, that it says here that they have to be approved by the board, so.
That's our
So
responsibility.
in the future, you know, if changes are to be made
Maybe we should
on
just.
the application forms, then, you know, that's all well and good, but we are part of the process, and please consult with us and seek our advice also, that we're the ones that are gonna have to approve
But
it.
there's no difficulty with the current forms, or is there?
Well, I don't know, other than they, I mean, they're, you know, they are what they are, but they haven't been approved by this board.
Well, maybe we should make it a.
And perhaps, perhaps at the next meeting, if we want the zoning administrator to come in and explain, you know, the recent changes in the forms.
Is there a substantive change? It doesn't seem to me that there's.
There's been some, there have been some substantive changes.
What good do we
They look totally different than they did a few years
I
ago.
thought Michelle changed them based on our request.
Not, I do not remember anybody, you know, our making a formal request to change, change them or to, if we requested a change, then I would have expected that they would come back to us and we would look at them and go, yeah, that looks good.
That's what we have,
Because that's what it says we're supposed to do.
Well, I thought that you had pointed out in prior cases where we were not requesting in the application things required by the code. And so that's what she went back and made sure that the application
Yeah, if it's
aligned
required
to
by
the
code, we don't.
And I thought that was your issue before.
Not that I have a good recollection of, but I may have said something, but like I said, it's still,
A good example was, I think you had mentioned like the pictures of the parcel or a plat, for instance, and that was a topic of discussion.
well, I have talked, but that was
Legal
already on the
representation.
forms, and they weren't showing up. That was not, and yes, I did in that case particularly, I would say, if we're not gonna require that, then let's change the form, but, but that was it. It wasn't
There was a question.
authorization, it was a question which would be, let's look at the forms and see, what the wording is or whatever, and whether it's appropriate or not, or we're getting the necessary information, and put together a form, and look at it and go, yeah, that's a good form, and then let's,
We did have that change with regard to legal representation.
No, we haven't.
No, but I mean, that was a question that came up, whether people.
Oh, absolutely, and that's where, and we've dealt with that right now through our rules and procedures, and we
Right.
are suspending that on an individual basis.
I see that.
It's not overall, no, we haven't.
We did draft language. It
We haven't
was
drafted a
never-
rule.
Yeah, we didn't move forward with that.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I thought the board agrees that there are numerous changes that need to be made in these rules and procedures, but let's make them all at the same time,
Right.
but based on a code that is current, because some of the changes in here apply to the code, as written right now, so.
Plus there's rewriting of other things that we're dependent upon, and we probably ought to get ahead of those.
Yeah, I mean, we can start the initial process, but like I said, because we have to go through the formality of advertising it and changing whatever, we can't just do it on a whim. And so let's make all the necessary changes and then lay the new procedures on the table and have them available to the public or whatever, and then make a decision and make a change.
So right now, we're gonna table this?
we have to, I'm not saying we should,
There will be a time when all the data will
well,
be available.
hopefully there's gonna be, the changes in the code are not gonna take as long as it took to come up with a new comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
So within the near future, or whatever, the changes will be made in the code, and then we can look at the new code and look at what we've got for rules and procedures and bring the two together and make a change. I mean, this is not, what's written here is not affecting our operations in any way. So,
Not at all.
we're moving along just fine. So, but there are some, and some of are just changes in wording or there's certain things in here that may not conform to codes because the codes have changed or whatever. But we try to.
Well, once they settle down to the codes, we can.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. But for right now, we're operating off of this and doing the best we can.
All right.
Can I draw your attention to the local ordinance?
It is-
Can I draw your attention to the local ordinance that's on the screen
Yes.
for your applications? And preface it by saying that the Code of Virginia allows you to develop rules of procedure in line with local ordinance.
Yeah.
And local ordinance says application shall be filed with the zoning administrator on forms provided by the county. You don't get to usurp that and in placing your own approval process. So the county provides the forms. You provide your rules of procedure on how this body is going to operate, but you can't overrule local ordinance. So the county zoning administrator and I are very interested in input from the BZA to make sure the forms include all of the information that you need to make a sound decision. And it's a parallel form. It's the same form for SE and SUP. So you want to make sure it's the right information for both bodies.
Right. That's
Well, yeah.
That's the sort of thing you
Because
do.
that's the point right there, is that when I'm reading in our rules and procedures, doesn't agree with the county code.
The Board of Supervisors and the county had no involvement in the development of the rules of procedure for this body. They don't approve it. It's your rules of procedure prepared by you, approved by you.
Yes, but in the applications from BZA, what we have in our rules and procedures doesn't correspond with what it says in the county code, so we have to
But
make
the
that
county
change.
code trumps what we.
Yeah, you need to align with county code.
That's what I'm saying.
Suggest
We're on the
that
same side.
happen. And I'm not sure what changes you think are going to happen to the zoning ordinance and when, but I wouldn't wait for those.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would have.
Well, okay, we've heard very little on what actual changes are gonna be made to the county code. So that's why, which I guess means nothing. But,
There's no active review underway.
Yeah, well, there is.
The county has engaged a consulting company to perform a diagnostic. The report was provided to the Planning Commission. The same report will be provided to the Board of Supervisors on August 3rd. You're welcome to attend. And receive that report. It's posted to Boarddocs right now for everybody to review if you'd like. But that's general nature. There's some high-level comments, and there will be follow-on zoning ordinance amendments over time. And I know this section is of interest, and it's of interest to some board members as to how SEs and SUPs are handled.
You don't see anything precipitous in the short term, it's just a standard review, or is there?
I can tell you that some board members are wanting to evaluate the role of the BZA in legislative acts, i.e. SUPs. But I don't know how that's going to come out, and that'll be a function of public input and board input, and
Right.
if anything changes, it'll be public hearings and months and months and months, and during that time, you will be hearing
Okay.
SUP applications.
So you're saying we should just move forward and get ourselves in conformance with our codes?
You're empowered to manage the rules and procedures to guide your operations.
right. And again, with having the information you've given us now, that is better direction, because my understanding was that, that they were going through the entire county code and making updates and changes that should have been made probably some of them years ago, but it never happened. And so that's what I was thinking, we should wait and make sure that, you were operating, if we made changes, they were gonna be to a current code, but if you don't anticipate any changes in the areas that we're in, then fine, we'll go ahead and,
A lot of that's been done, the May amendments that were talked about for years, those are done and behind us. The board just did change section 170-55 to change the process
Right.
for SUVs and SEs.
Right.
You should make sure you're familiar with that recent change.
Right. I have a question about this review. Cases have come up before us where the districts, like agricultural, residential, according to the rules, they're supposed to follow property lines. And in some cases, they converge. And more than one property is even small properties. We had a 2-acre property at one point that was in more than one zone.
There are many split zone properties. I don't know what rule exists that would require a zoning district to follow a property line. It might be a best practice, but I'm not aware of any law or.
No, I don't think it was a law, but I just read that that was a standard procedure. Not, you know what I'm saying? It does make it difficult for property owner. Yeah, untenable actually, for a property owner with 2 acres to have 3 districts, you know, in the same property. I mean, the thing is, the question is, how do we read it? Do we read it broadly, narrowly? Do you have to have your house on one side of the property and not on the other? It's just a question of that they should.
Something that the
they should
body
follow
can
the
do.
property
The
line.
ordinance speaks to the interpretation of the zoning district lines by the zoning administrator. Of course, that can be appealed to this body, should there be confusion about where it really is.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the rest of it.
The ordinance identifies that the zoning administrator makes determination of where that line actually is based on the maps that we have. If somebody is aggrieved by that decision, it would be appealed to you
Okay,
as the BZA.
okay. But we.
And if they don't like your decision, they can throw it up to the courts.
Okay, okay, I see. So sometimes then they have 3 districts, residential, agricultural, and whatever else, then we get to make the determination which one applies.
No.
No.
The zoning administrator,
Administrator
based on the location of the use requested, makes that determination. If the
Okay.
applicant is aggrieved, they can appeal it
Oh, I
to the
see,
BZA.
I'm sorry, okay, all right.
And that would, then it comes to us, and we look at it, and that we have, what I understand, we have the option to adjust those lines if it's appropriate, and there's some basis to do it. I mean, we can't just
Right,
do it
right.
willy-nilly, but it's like, particularly where on certain property lines or certain configurations on the property or something like that, where the district attorney,
We would work this out.
the lines cross or whatever, at a weird angle or something, and it would be better to just follow the person's property line and make their property all one.
And we work this out with the zoning administrators.
And that would be a process we would work out with the zoning administrator if it was brought to us.
First.
So we can't go and look at it independently. We have to be brought in.
I'm saying on 2 acres, it comes in 3 districts, and they want to put a house in the corner where they all meet, which one do we go with?
That's
Is this really relevant right
So
now?
we appeal that to.
it's not, that's something, if that comes up, that's when we
Well,
look at everything.
we're this far from that, but I'm just wondering how that is worked out.
You kind of play it by ear.
Right. That's how I got picked that right up.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll
move
make
to
it.
adjourn.
Motion to made,
I'll second it if I.
seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
We're there.
You know,